Welcome to Free Marketing Fridays. Change things up a little bit. Now, in about 10 minutes, I'm going to give you some super actionable advice, compress the timeline because our attention spans are kind of short lately. So let's do the most with 10 minutes that we have today, about 10 minutes. So last week, we covered kind of basic survey foundations. If you missed it, it's available in a replay on the YouTube channel. But understanding why you're sending a survey, who gets it, how you deliver it, all those kinds of things. But today we're going to take it to the next step, which is getting into the questions themselves. Because you can have the perfect tool, the right set of respondents, but if your questions suck, you're still going to get garbage data. So we've got 10 minutes. Let's fix your survey questions, shall we? If we haven't met before, my name's Sunny Hunt. I'm the Chief Customer Nerd here at Hunt Interaction. I've worked with all these companies and more on filling success gaps in their customer journey so that they can grow in the way that they want. And let's get to it since we don't have much time. So most survey questions fail because they're designed poorly from the start. And it's not because you're bad at creating survey questions. It's because the way we get taught to create surveys is not always the best. And then sometimes our survey tools do us dirty because they set up their question formats kind of by default or make bad recommendations that kind of sets you up to do a couple of things. They lead respondents. It's kind of like leading the witness. I'll get into that in a minute. They also ask you to do two things at once or answer two questions jam-packed into a single question. And some survey questions, they are just filled with jargon and industry speak that customers just don't understand. Or some of these questions ask what you already know. Like, why are you asking for demographic information when you already have demographic information? So we are going to fix all of this stuff today. So real quick, there are two big categories of questions. Number one is quantitative or closed-ended questions. These give you data that you can count and measure. Things like multiple choice, where you can only select one, multiple choice, where you can select multiple. You can do a yes/no question. You can do a rating scale from 1 to 5 or 1 to 10. Or you can do a Likert scale, which is I strongly agree to strongly disagree, neutral in the middle. The second type of questions is qualitative. These are open-ended questions. These give you stories, context, and the language that your customers actually use. They're questions like open-ended text box, whether that's a short response or a big response, asking why questions, asking about experiences, and to describe those experiences, and also asking comparison questions. Oops, sorry. The most effective surveys do a combination of both quantitative and qualitative questions. The quantitative questions you can use to help segment and prioritize the data that you get, and the qualitative gives you more of the why context as well as the voice of customer experience. So moving on to the next thing. Leading questions are the fastest way to get useless data. When you ask, how satisfied are you with our amazing customer service? That's not a question. That's really fishing for compliments and leading the witness, really. It's the same with an example of, don't you agree our onboarding is easy to follow? Right? You're asking or fishing for a particular response, and you're doing that by jamming it into your question. Instead, we want to do more neutral-based questions. They don't have the answer baked in. So how would you describe your experience with our customer service? That's more neutral, open-ended, allows people to respond in the way that they feel is appropriate for them. And then describe your experience with our onboarding process. Now they can tell you if it's confusing, if it's easy, somewhere in between. You want their customer's version of their truth instead of just validation and getting glazed. So also another question format that tends to trip us up is the double-barreled question. The double-barreled question asks two things jam-packed into one question. So an example would be, how satisfied with you are with our pricing and customer support? That's which question are they answering? They might love your support, but they hate your pricing. Now, their answer, however they answer that, is absolutely useless because they don't know what part you're asking about. One question, one topic, always. You have to keep it simple. If you catch yourself using the word "and" in a question, you're probably asking too much. You're probably asking two things, split them up, break them apart. So in this example, you break it apart into two things. Number one, how satisfied are you with our pricing? And how satisfied are you with our customer support? That makes it very clear and delineated which question you want an answer to with that particular data that you're looking for. Your question order in your survey will affect your completion rates or whether or not people even finish your survey. So you want to start with easy questions that don't feel invasive. Get that easy demographic information about products, etc. Get them engaged. And then put your most important questions in the middle when their attention is the highest. And then you can save sensitive questions for the end after they've already invested time and are more likely to finish the survey. You earn the right to ask personal questions in a survey by getting respondents invested first. And then you gain trust in your survey by showing that your survey is easy to take and you're not going to inundate your respondents with 30 pages of different versions of the same stupid question. Personally, I would rather give myself paper cuts and volunteer at a charity lemonade stand than to go through some of these surveys that I've gotten, but we can absolutely do better. Another thing that trips us up is logic branches. Logic branches let you customize the survey based off of how someone answers a question. So different customer types need different paths for their questions. So, and what they answer determines the next question or the next series of questions they're going to see. So an example would be, did you evaluate competitors? If a respondent says yes, you follow up with a logic branch that says, which one? And if they say no, then you can skip to the next section. This keeps your surveys relevant and saves time, but it also maintains trust because you're not asking any irrelevant questions. But don't get fancy just because your tool can do logic branches. Every branch you add adds complexity, and every branch you add is another piece in your survey that can break. So use them when you genuinely want to improve the experience and not just because you can, because simple beats clever every single time. So how long should your survey be? General rule, generally speaking, 5 to 10 minutes max. That's the time that your respondents need to complete your survey. And you need to tell them that up front and then make sure that you actually deliver on that promise. 10 to 15 questions is about typical, depending on the types of questions that you're going to ask. But here's the reality check. Sometimes when you add more and more, every time you add more and more questions to your survey, it decreases your completion rate and increases the risk that someone is going to bail and not complete the survey altogether. So ask yourself, do I actually need this question and this particular data from this answer? Or am I just curious? Am I just digging a little bit more? If you can't complete your own survey in the time that you promised, it's too long, you've got to cut it. And I'm going to give you a little piece of advice here. Anybody who has kind of leadership authority over this survey is going to want a longer survey than the one that you already planned. It happens every time. I have not encountered a situation where there were enough questions or too many questions. There were always the request to add more questions. So it's your job to gently push back and ask the question, does this data from this question get us any further or get us any more information than we're already asking? Or could we follow up with an additional survey? We can qualify customers in this initial survey and ask a follow-up to a particular segment in order to get more detailed information. Or can we bolt on a request for a customer interview at the end of this survey so that we can really explore those details and really kind of explore that nuance that we're discovering or that we are anticipating in that initial survey? So a couple different things to do. Number one, push back gently. Number two, offer a follow-up survey. And number three, offer customer interviews to get more information. Don't ask customers questions you already know the answers to. If you know their job title, don't answer it. But don't ask that question. You're wasting a question. Same with the company. Same with how long they've been a customer. This is stuff you should already know. And already, like, what plan or what service are they buying or have they bought from you? Every unnecessary question wastes their time and signals that you don't actually know who you're talking to. The only exception to this rule is that you're asking them this information to confirm or update any outdated information that you have. Otherwise, use the data you have, ask the questions only they can answer. The idea of required questions, where you have the little asterisk that says, like, you must answer this question. How many of those should you have? Here's the thing. Required questions kill completion rates. Every time you force someone to answer something, you create a dropout point. So make required only what you absolutely need to make the data useful. Everything else is totally optional, right? Most surveys over require. I am absolutely guilty of this. You don't need to make every field required. Make 2 to 3 questions max required, and then let people skip what doesn't apply to them. You'll get higher completion rates and better quality responses from the people who actually want to answer. Your tone and voice really does matter in your surveys. You need to write at an 8th grade reading level. No matter how sophisticated your survey audience is, they need to be able to scan the question and process the answer that they want to give you. No jargon, no buzzwords, no inside baseball. One idea per question. That kind of goes back to the double-barreled question idea. And if you have to explain your question, it's too complicated. You need to go back and rewrite it. So an example would be, how would you rate our solutions value proposition optimization? What? Can you repeat the question? If someone has that kind of idea or that reaction to that question, it's way too complicated. Instead, simplify it. Say, how valuable is our product to your business? Okay, that's much easier. Now I can have an idea of what I need to answer for that. It's clear, simple, direct. Your customers don't need a decoder ring to answer your survey. It's unreasonable to ask. Wrapping all of this up in a nice little bow, here's your quick checklist. Use neutral wording, never lead the witness. One topic, one question. That's it. Easy questions first, important, and then more sensitive questions. Logic only when it improves the experience. Don't do it just because you can. 5 to 10 minutes total for your entire survey. That's how long that should take to complete. And don't ask what you already know. And also, please reduce the number of questions that are required for your survey and use plain language, no jargon. If you get all of these things right, you're ahead of like 90% of the surveys that have been jammed into my inbox that just absolutely drive me crazy. So now I have a resource guide for you, which takes everything I just talked about and gives you a ton more detail. Plus, I've added a bonus section on how to recruit customers in your existing survey for follow-up interviews, because sometimes you need to go deeper than a survey allows. This is the same framework or the same operating manual that I use when I book customer interviews. It makes it very, very easy for respondents to say yes, because their brains are already in the right space and you've given them the tools and the opportunity to actually book time with you immediately after they finish their survey. So I'm going to throw this link in the chat if you want to download it. And if you're watching this on the replay, I'm going to add this to the description so that you can go and find it yourself. And if you are here today and you didn't get an email in your inbox notifying you about this particular session today, you're going to want to sign up for those. You can sign up for those emails at freemarketingfridays.com and enter your email address. I promise, I pinky promise, I'm not going to spam you. I'm not going to sell your email address. I hate that shit. Won't do it. Anyway, thank you for spending time with me today. If you're watching this on the replay and you found it helpful, I would appreciate it if you would give me a thumbs up or leave a comment. And if you really liked it, share this with someone you think could get some value out of this. So thanks for attending. I will see you next week on Free Marketing Fridays.